Hey everybody, this is Ken and I'm showing you my old Gateway 2000 4DX2-V 66Hz. It didn't even have a CD-ROM back then. It's a 46 with Vesta local bus and a 400 megabyte hard drive. So it has Windows 3.1 and DOS 6 2.0. So let's actually, back then when I first got into computers, this was our Windows back then. We didn't have Windows 10, Windows 7, Windows XP. We used to use Windows 3.1 or 3.11. So back then, this is about, how it was. You would, at the DOS prompt, type WIN and it'll bring you into the Windows desktop. Back then, there was no start menu. It was basically the program manager. So this is where you would have all your applications and stuff here. So like this would be your, back then this was the file manager in Windows 3.1. In Windows 10 and XP and 7, it's the Windows File Explorer. So you can see back then it's very similar, but back then also you only could use 8 characters. You couldn't have long file names like you do in modern Windows. You had your control panel, basically, set up video and sound and mouse and desktop and printers and colors. Then you had your printer manager where you added your printers. You also had your DOS prompt. If you wanted to run DOS applications, you would click on it and get you to the DOS screen. If you do Alt Enter, it'll bring you to the window of DOS, and you can run your DOS applications through Windows 3.1. Back then, this is the Microsoft Office. It was really a simple version back then. It didn't really have Outlook and all the other fancy stuff in it. This is 6.0 of Microsoft Word for Windows 3.1. So back then, this was what we used to do word processing, and it was very, very, very old-fashioned. As you can see, 8 characters was it. You couldn't go more than 8 characters on your in your saving your files. So this is, and basically you had all your apps and stuff. It had a little window, and in the window had your apps. So it didn't have a start menu at all. So you had your games, Solitaire, Minesweeper, and then you had your tools, antivirus. It was a simple version. Windows has really gotten very advanced now these days. Back then, this is how the old Windows was. They even had WordPerfect. That it didn't come with Windows. You would have to buy it separately. So yeah, as you can see how long it takes to do stuff. It's a 46 with Vesta local bus, or Visa local bus. That's what they call it back then. This is your Word. This is WordPerfect. So they had Word and they had WordPerfect. So yeah. And also you can change your video resolution with the video changer app here, where you can change your resolution. It was very basic. It couldn't really go into very high resolution, and you couldn't have a lot of colors. The highest colors, I had a little error here. I think the highest colors was 256. So and then you had your PC Anywhere stuff. But this is really Windows 3.1. This is how it was back then. I mean, you really didn't have anything, as compared to Windows 10 and Windows 7 today. Sys edits, where you got to edit your, your auto exec bat, and it's like your registry. But yeah, it was very, very simple back then. There was no plug and play. You would have to go into the control panel and work your drivers. You would have to install drivers. using the 3.5 floppy disk. Like I said, back then they didn't have CD-ROMs on machines, so you know you would have to go in here and do your colors, and like if I wanted to change the colors, you know, I could change the colors. This is kind of like, you know, let's put it to this is the default Windows 3.1 look. So then you had your fonts, your ports. You have to configure your ports in here. You know, it was back then. It wasn't like now these days, plug and play. Then you had your drivers, where you used to install your sound and your you know your video drivers in here in your internationals, where you had languages. So, and this was the enhanced 386 enhanced to help improve memory and virtual memory. So this is basically a simple version of Windows. They didn't have internet back then, so we used to go dial and call on bulletin boards, you know, BBSs. So yeah, but this is the Windows 3.1. You didn't have video, you couldn't even play video on this sucker. You couldn't do a lot of things. It was just basically a simple machine. You can play Wolfenstein 3D. That was probably the best game back then for this Windows 3.1. It has it's a Windows 3.1 72. I think it has 13 or 14. I think that's, I don't know how much RAM it has in here. It's a very old machine. But yeah, this is my old Windows 3.1 system. So stay tuned for I have a Windows 95 machine that I like to show. So back then, when we were done with Windows, we used to close it, and there you go. It brought you back to the DOS prompt, and you know, that was it. So let me kind of show you how back then, how you know, how the computer used to start up back then. You know, it was very simple. It wasn't like it is today. You had your internal cache, external cache on the motherboard, and then it would just start, you know, say starting MS-DOS. It'll load your high mem drivers to do extended memory. So it was very simple back then. We didn't have like what today's computers are, and I'm amazed that I have this old computer hooked up to this 17-inch Dell flat screen monitor. It's amazing to see Windows on here. And you got your power management. You guys used to have a driver for the mouse. If you didn't have the driver, the mouse would not work. So you know, so yeah, that's basically it. You had your drivers for the, you know, you go Windows 3.1. So this was it back then for us. When I first got into computers, this was basically the Windows that there was, and it was very, very popular. But yeah, thanks for watching my video. Comment below and subscribe to the channel. I'll try to show you my Windows 95 machine and some other old historical computers I have around. But yeah, this actually is a working machine. It's pretty good condition, and Windows 3.1 is in really excellent condition. So you know, no errors, no nothing. So I want to go ahead and shut it down, and you know, if any questions or so, leave comments below. You guys have a great day, and thank you for watching my video. Thank you. Bye bye.